right? So even if you're like trying to wholesale land, these are the kind of things you need to know, or you're going to end up with a piece of property that you can't sell. Land. They always say it's the one thing that they're not making anymore, right? This is Alex BRRRR, and I always give investors the real scoop on how to get deals done in anything in investment real estate. So let's talk about land acquisitions. It's true. It's the one thing that's not being made anymore, unless there's a really big volcano somewhere that I'm not aware of. But with land is probably going to be the most difficult thing you guys can do. This is why. So it's not the land itself that's the issue. We'll go over what you need to do. It's the problem of risk. So land is underwritten very, very carefully, and this is why. The lender does not want to end up with it at all. Now, lenders don't want to foreclose on anybody anyway, but if you end up with land, every lender knows that you are going to keep this thing for years, most likely, okay? Because when a lender forecloses on properties like that, there's really nothing to do. I mean, you can horizontal out the land and try to develop it, but lenders aren't developers. That's not their game. Has anybody ever tried to call an REO department at a bank? Good luck. So it's like they don't know what to do with it, okay? But they don't mind lending to it with stipulation. So if you're going to do land, here's the biggest land plays that I see. The first land play that people do with me a lot is they're buying 100 acres, 200 acres, 1,000 acres of land. They chop them up in like 10-acre ranchettes. They get them ready for the owner-occupant to build a custom home on it, okay? They either sell it outright or they wrap it owner financing, okay? If you do that model, you have to understand there is a decreased release when you sell a piece of property, okay? Because the entire land value has to be within the leverage of which your lender can loan against. So just be aware of that. If let's say, to make the math simple, if you had a $100,000 loan and you're selling 10 lots for $10,000, I know that's low, but just work with me here. And you sell the $10,000 lot, you may get a release of 8 because the rest of the land has to cover the rest of the debt. Because what if that lot was a corner lot and it's the best piece and that's the highest value off the appraised value, things like that. So just be aware of that. Be aware that you may have some release issues, not an issue, but you should be aware that you may not get the 10 grand. You may get 8. You may get less than that. You may get more than that. All right, but that's a very popular play, especially here in Texas, where people will buy large pieces of land, make sure that everything is ready to go. They sell them or owner finance them to the end buyer to put like a ranch on it, okay? The second thing people do is buy either small or large pieces of land to either develop single family homes or subdivisions or what have you, okay? On those deals, if you're doing the vertical, it's much easier to get done because the line understands that there's going to be improvements to the land because they're also carrying the vertical cost. Because the vertical is an escrow for construction, if it were to come back, it is easier to at least start or complete the project if something happens to you. But it's also easier to get done because there's going to be a lot of value added to the land. If you're doing the first scenario and you're just kind of horizontaling out, making sure utilities are connected. You know, you got with the mud district, if there's a muds are really popular down here. That kind of stuff. There's really no value added to the land. Yeah, you know, you need that stuff to sell it, but is the land worth that much more? No. So with land, you got to understand that is a process, and you have to have a good amount of liquidity, because unless you're going like USDA or something like that, if you're going asset based, I have seen loan to value range from 30% to 70%. Now the 70% usually is as is value or purchase price, whatever's less. So again, if you're going to be a land developer, a land flipper, you have to know that asset class is considered higher risk. Higher risk means the investor takes the risk with their own capital, not the lender. Okay? So anytime you guys get into higher risk asset classes, you have to come to the understanding that the risk falls onto you, the investor, and not the lender. So if you're going to go into the land development arena, know that going in. Know that most likely you are not going to get $0 out of pocket on land acquisition. Not that it's impossible, not that I haven't done it, but it is extremely difficult. Okay? Second thing on land, on development or flipping lots, you have to come to the understanding that if you have not done that process, and all my land developers can comment and chime in and tell you exactly what I'm about to tell you, is that if you have not dealt with public utility districts, MUDs, dealing with the electrical company, sewer, water, if they need well and septic, is there past deed restrictions? Do you need to restructure the deed restrictions? Was there an association formed in the 1950s? You know, all these kind of things like that. There is a process. So you have to come to the understanding that most likely, if you got a 12-month asset-based loan on land, you're going to be in there longer than that. What happens when you extend your note? There's extension points. Your interest rate increases. Find out what that is. And do the math that says, and be conservative. If I got this land and I'm flipping lots, how long is it going to take me to connect utilities to the land? How long is it going to take me to get with the municipalities to make sure that we can do this? Do I have a topographic and understand if there's detention on board, especially if it's going commercial? Is that detention taking away the usable square footage of development? If I have detention, do I have rights to the detention? I've seen that nonsense where there's detention on the land and you don't have right to it. That kind of stuff. So all those things that when you're going to land flipping or land development, it's important that you get with a good team that understands engineering, resurveying, replotting, depending on what you're building. Like, you know, detention's a big deal, utilities are a big deal. Most developers won't even touch the land on acquisition if you're selling the land unless there's been an approved plan, and they understand that they can have access to water, sewer, and detention. I've seen people try to sell land where it's like, hey, this is going to be great for an apartment complex and stuff like that. You get to the mud and they're like, nope, we're not allowing it. Nope, we don't want that there. Nope, we don't have the capacity. All right, so even if you're like trying to wholesale land, these are the kind of things you need to know, or you're going to end up with a piece of property that you can't sell. Okay, so understand that there's a lot of liquidity involved in land. The loan to values shift on what you're trying to do and the type of lending that you need. So when you go to your lender and you're trying to acquire land, it's important that you guys have a copy of the survey. If the seller has one, you should know what you're doing buying. On the survey aspect of things, and if you don't have one, you get with title and order another one. That's where you order a survey with your title company. Okay, or order it yourself. So on the survey, is it meets and bounds or lot and block? If it's meets and bounds, where are my edges? Is this landlocked? Do I have frontage access? Are there easements? Are there pipelines underneath that restrict me from building? If they don't restrict, do you understand that pipeline can tear apart that development at any time if needed? Are there, all those things? So that's why if you're buying the land on the initial stage, and definitely before you close, is there a survey and check out for easements and frontage and access? Like here in Texas, will TxDOT allow for ingress and egress to use your property? Those kind of things. So land is a different animal, okay? And especially when it comes into development. What else on land? Let's see here. So there's a lot of soft costs that are involved with acquiring investment land. Like I just said, engineering, surveying, making sure that everything is kind of hunky-dory with the municipalities or whoever's providing water, sewer. If you're doing well and septic, do you have enough land to put the well and septic on for usage? Detention, is it in a flood zone? That's another one. Like, oh, it's land. Was that once a rice paddy? Kind of thing. Like, just do your due diligence. So when you come to your lenders, you have all that stuff ready. If you don't have it ready, your pre-underwrite on what your lender can do and offer you is going to take a lot of time. It's going to take slow time. So make sure you guys get what you need. Really evaluate the land. Make sure it's the right aspect for you. And I'm not telling you that you don't buy the land if those things aren't done. I'm telling you that you buy it lower because of your incurred risk. And you have those answers ready for your lenders about what you're doing to the land, what can be done on the land, and what's your exit. Well, guys, I hope that helped with the land. If you guys have any more questions, comment, like, subscribe, share this with someone that needs to know. If you have questions about what you're trying to do, reach out to me. We'll get it done. I hope this helped. We'll talk to you later.